Inspiration, clarity, confidence, and wholehearted business strategy. Welcome to Your Next Chapter, the podcast especially for women in their 40s and beyond who know that business and personal development go hand in hand. Tune in each week for marketing, mindset, and personal growth strategies, along with inspiring stories from women around the world who are creating new businesses and lives that are personally fulfilling and financially rewarding. If you're looking to create a business and life you love, you're in great company. Let's find out what will unfold in your next chapter. I'm your host, Angela Raspass, and I'm so delighted that you're here. Hello there, it's Angela, and thanks for tuning in for another Your Next Chapter podcast. Now today I want to talk to you about something that needs to be at the heart of your business, especially if you're a service provider, and that's having sales conversations. Now a sales conversation to me is simply an elegant invitation to transformation. Now it's you being the bridge between someone's current reality and a new possibility for them. It's you recognizing that you have the ability to solve a problem or to provide a solution to somebody who needs it. And really, it need be no more complicated than that. Except that it is. Now, why is that? Why do sales conversations for a lot of people become really difficult and icky and uncomfortable? Well, my theory on that is that if you are a service provider, you can sometimes really begin to equate your own self-worth, your own value, with what it is that you're offering. And that's when things can get rather uncomfortable and you can begin to doubt your ability to provide what it is that you are absolutely here and capable of doing. Now let me give you a little bit of a contrast here. I've been in sales for what seems like forever. In fact, when I first came to Australia as a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed 19-year-old, my first job was selling classified advertising space for the Manly Daily way back in 1988. Now that involved me picking up a newspaper that had advertisements from another media outlet, calling up the people who were selling cars and saying, hey, if you haven't sold it yet, I think you should come over and advertise with us. Now, I think at 19 you can be quite fearless, but here's the thing that happened. Making those cold calls was pretty easy. And the reason why I think that was because what I was selling was in no way tied to who I was. It was space in a newspaper. It wasn't me selling particular services that were very tied to my own ability. Therefore, I could pick up the phone and again and again and again, and I have to tell you, I made some great money back then working in the evenings as well. But let's fast forward many, many, many years on, and let's look at how it differs so enormously when you're actually selling yourself. Now, this happens with coaches, with consultants, with wellness practitioners, with website developers, graphic designers. The list goes on and on and on. Basically, if you are providing a service that comes from your heart, your experience, your passion, then it is very easy to get tied up. Now, the way that we can work around this is that if you have an understanding of the need for clarity, for confidence, and for having a clear structure that takes you through these sales conversations in a wholehearted way, I guarantee you they'll become so much easier. So, what I'd like to do today is take you through 6 steps that I believe will absolutely help you claim your value and have these conversations with ease. In fact, it's what I call the art of wholehearted sales conversations. Now, if you're not driving, I'd love you to grab a pen and paper, because I dare say there's some notes that you could take here that would be really, really helpful. But I'll also promise you that as much value as I can give you here on this episode today, if you want to take it further, I do have a workshop that's coming up very soon that you may find very, very useful and helpful to get involved in. It's a virtual workshop, so no matter where you're listening from any part of the world, you're able to join me. But let's dive in, shall we? Now, with all the people that I've worked with over the years since I've been a business and marketing and self-worth mentor, I've seen the sales conversation trip up more people than almost any other part of business. And to me, it's because the actual philosophy needs to start way before you actually get on the call. whether you use the phone or Skype or Zoom or whatever, maybe even face-to-face. The work that you need to do to anchor yourself in value and to have that conversation move smoothly needs to happen way beforehand. And that's step one. Now, step one that I'd like to share with you is something that is not new. You've probably heard it before, but perhaps you haven't considered it when it comes to the actual sales conversation part of your business. And that first step is for you to become extremely clear on who is a most aligned client for you. Now, clarity around here is so important because it means that when you have a sales conversation, if you are speaking with a client who is beautifully aligned with you, and by that I mean there is a match between who they are and who you are, what they need and what you can provide. When that match is very clean and clear, then your conversion rate, meaning the number of sales to the number of conversations you have, will be so much higher. And here's the kicker. The conversations are so much more enjoyable when you're talking with a kindred spirit. And that confidence that will come in as a result will cascade down through almost every conversation that you have. So I want you to ask yourself, how clear are you on the people that you are here to help? How clear are you on what it is that they are struggling with, their top of mind problem, pain or aspiration? Now, I dare say that you can help a lot of people in a lot of different ways, but there needs to be this motivating trigger, this first step, this clear need for your assistance that will actually open the possibility of them walking through that door into a relationship in a working sense with you. Now, my own experience here, when I first moved out of my marketing agency and started doing more personal mentoring with women entrepreneurs, my original message was very wide, was very broad. It was about building a wholehearted business and life. And so demographically, I could have worked with all sorts of people. But as happens with all of us, our messages become more honed in, more specific as we move forward in our business. And these days, I speak very clearly to women in their 40s and beyond. That's my most typical and delightful client. Someone who has a corporate background, but now has taken some time out, possibly or probably because of their own families. They may have had a business on the side, and now they have the more free time and the desire to build that into something bigger. Or it could be that the business that they've had in the past no longer aligns with them. And so there is this need to make a change. That's exactly what I did with my own agency, as I explained before. I typically find that my clients, they have a self-belief that has been somewhat eroded, and they need to reclaim that value and get that confidence before they then develop the clarity of where it is they want to take the business, and then, and only then, do we really dive into the strategy, the marketing side of things. So my client is actually a lot more clear to me, and the messaging that I put out to the marketplace will resonate far more strongly with that particular woman. She recognizes herself in the message. And thus, when we actually do get on the phone, after she's perhaps followed me for a while, used some of my free resources, listened to the podcast perhaps, when we have the conversation, it is like speaking with a kindred spirit, and we know that there is a probable match between us, and we just need to test it out to see if there's that great fit. So have a think yourself. How clear are you on the people that you want to work with? And how well are you actually communicating that out into the marketplace so that the people who come to you and are speaking with you feel that match? Step 2 is for you to become very clear on the offers, the services that you are putting out into the market. It is really important for you to be communicating the outcomes that you provide. The destination that you can take your clients to, as opposed to the process that you take them through. So it's the destination to, not the process through, that you need to be communicating in your packages and services. Now, I'm a big believer in not promising the earth, moon and stars. There's so many unknown factors when you are working with clients that I think I've shared this before in podcasts, and I've probably ranted about it on my blog as well. There's so many promises that are out there in the online marketing world in particular. You need to promise or to offer what it is that you are confident that you can help provide. And you know in your heart what that is. But communicate that in terms of connecting to that top of mind problem, pain or aspiration of your most aligned client. There needs to be that fit so that they can feel there is a match between what they need and what it is that you have to offer. So go back and have a look at perhaps what's communicated on your website, or have a think about the way that you are articulating your offer when you're in a conversation with these most aligned clients. Step 3 is, how visible are you? There's many points at which a possible sale could break. It could be that you're not speaking to the right people, i.e. the most aligned client. It could be that your package or service is not aligned with those outcomes that they are seeking. Or it could be because no one can find you. Now, there can be a lot of fear about putting your messaging out there, but getting aligned with what it is that you stand for and then communicating that in a consistent and congruent manner is so, so important. And you don't have to spread yourself too thin. Perhaps just choose a couple of social media platforms where you make yourself visible. Are you blogging regularly? Are you going to networking events? Are you posting on Facebook? Are you issuing the invitations to actually talk with you about your solutions? If you're not having the number of conversations that you'd like, perhaps that's the problem, that you're simply not visible enough in your market. So that's another piece to have a look at. Now let's say that you've ticked all those 3 boxes and you're coming up to a call. And in fact, many of us or many of my clients have those 3 boxes ticked. But when it comes to the call, they start getting the wobbles. Well, that's why step 4 is about you anchoring yourself in your value before you ever pick up the phone. Now there's many ways in which you can do this, and I just want to share a couple of tips with you now. Now, if you've been following the work that I do for a while now, you would have heard about the fabulous file. But if you haven't, just to touch on it briefly here. Now, a fabulous file is where you keep all the evidence of your fabulosity. Now, that can be feedback that you've had from other clients. It could be snapshots of wonderful times in your life where perhaps your kids, in my fabulous file, for example, my kids have sent me a couple of gorgeous cards, which I keep. Goals that I've kept, things that I've achieved. And yes, I am a soccer player, so I actually do mean goals, but other goals as well, where you've actually managed to achieve what you set out to. Now, evidence, all of that evidence gathered together into your fabulous file so that you can have a look through it before you get on a call to remind yourself of the value, of the worth that you provide to others, to yourself, to your family, to the world. Anchoring yourself in that value is very, very helpful before you pick up the phone. There's also a wonderful TED talk by a woman called Amy Cuddy, who talks about body language and in particular the concept of a power pose. Now this might sound a little bit funny, but it really works. Literally, before you get on a call, take a couple of minutes to stand tall. Think Wonder Woman. You probably remember her if you're in the same sort of age demographic as me. Arms akimbo, legs spread, feet firmly planted on the ground. Absolutely puffing out your chest, breathing long and deep, and just reminding yourself that I have personal power. Now, you might actually be laughing a little or feel a little uncomfortable at actually taking that sort of stance, but there is so much research and studies, which you can listen to if you hear the TED Talk by Amy, so much evidence about having this physicality of confidence and how that actually comes through into your body and into your mindset. It's a wonderful place to put yourself in before you enter a sales conversation. There can be other tips as well. As I'm talking to you, I have a particular crystal that is a beautiful, smooth stone that I hold in my hand and just focus on before I pick up the phone. It's one of my little things that seems to help my confidence as well. So whatever you choose, it's anchoring yourself before you pick up that phone. Now, the call begins. How will you handle the call? Now, one of the problems that I see people getting themselves tied up in is that they give so much advice on the call that the person that is speaking with you is all filled up. They've had their full and they have no need to then move forward with you because they don't perceive a gap. So, although it is absolutely a part of my wholehearted philosophy to provide value, to give some great tips on the phone, it's also important that you don't go into a full solve your problems then and there. because you don't know the person's complete situation as clearly as you could when you build up a relationship over time. So I like to follow a particular structure that, as my mum reminds me, looks at the fact that I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, i.e., I mean to listen more than I talk. This call is really about you understanding where your client is at, or your potential client is at, and seeing whether or not you are able to assist them in getting to where they want to be. That's that concept of you being the bridge. And as you approach this call and start utilizing the wholehearted structure that I teach, the first step is for you to understand that you need to approach the call as an advocate. When you're asking these questions, these open-ended questions to find out where your client is at, it's from that position of being a leader and an advocate, with wanting the best possible outcome for this person, releasing yourself from any, this is the way the call's going to be. I need to get this client. That's the sort of energy that you want to let go of. You need to understand that your position on the call, the way that you show up on the call, can only ever be as wholehearted and pure as your intention. And that intention is the best possible outcome for the client. It can be that you are not the match for them. It can be that the situation that they are painting for you, the problem or the pain or the aspiration that they have, you are not the right person to close that gap. And you need to be at peace with that. It could be that you need to recommend somebody else, or a resource, or another time for you to be able to help this person. So if you can please come to the call with that advocate mindset, that will make an enormous difference to the honest and wholehearted energy that you give off when you're talking with someone. Now from there, as the advocate and asking the open-ended questions, you then want to find out what is the vision that they have for the future. If this is where they are now, what does that vision for the future look like? Help them paint that picture, help them understand what it is that they're wanting to achieve. And then you need to just pause and summarize. Do you have a clear understanding? We often don't do that on a call, on a sales call. We forget to check in to make sure that we have actually understood the client clearly. Once you've done that, then and only then do you present your offer. That package with the clear outcomes, that service with the absolute solutions that we spoke of earlier, now's the time for you to actually make that offer clearly, confidently, because you're anchored in your self-belief. Now next you may come up against some objections. There may be some concerns that your potential client has. Don't let those scare you. They are simply the opportunity for further clarity, to dig down under the surface and see what the person needs to have answered, what might be holding them back. Now, I'm not a huge believer in pushing anybody into a decision that's not right for them, but I am a huge believer in staying in that advocate position and finding out, is there anything that is holding them back, which is actually about not valuing themselves. Now, I know for sure that I can easily invest in outcomes for my kids. I can pay for their school fees, I can buy them the clothes that they want to need, and many, many other things, and I do it without hesitation. But when it comes to investing in me, I've had to work on the fact that I deserve it. And that sometimes can trip us up. And that may be the case for your client as well. And it could be something that you need to examine and to just bring into the light and have a discussion around. But let's assume that you've had that discussion and now the client is ready and excited and enthused about moving forward with you, which is fantastic. And that brings us to step 6, your ability to have a smooth transition between making the offer, having an acceptance, and getting started. It's amazing the number of times that people can go, oh my goodness, what is the next step? Do you have easy ways that people can make payments? Do you have a welcome package for them to get started with you? Do you have clear next steps for people to take so that they can smoothly transition from wanting to work with you to actually starting the process? So those, my darlings, are the 6 steps that I'd like you to consider and to think about when you are going into sales conversations. You need that clarity of who you're working with and what you can provide. You need that confidence, that anchoring yourself in your value, looking to the achievements that you have managed in the past, the results that you have provided for clients before. Anchor yourself in that before you pick up the phone. And then a simple and clear structure for you to work through the actual sales conversation, where you are absolutely an advocate for the highest outcome for your potential client. Now, if you bring those pieces together, then your opportunity to have far more easeful sales conversations are just waiting for you. Now, there is so much more that I have to share and can teach around this particular subject. Wholehearted sales conversations are such a core part of my business, and the structure and the strategy that I have touched on today is something that I teach my personal clients and my mastermind clients. But I did mention that I'm changing the game up a little bit. I'm actually running a workshop, a virtual workshop on October the 12th, where I will take you through each of these steps in great more depth and detail with templates and frameworks that you can utilize and personalize for your own business. It's a workshop that's done on Zoom, so we'll actually physically interact together in that video conference environment. And the workshop is limited to just 8 ladies who would like to dive into the subject with me, so I can make sure I can answer all of your questions and give you the guidance that you need. If this sounds like something that you would like to have a look at, simply go to my website, angelaraspass.com/wholehearted sales success, and you'll find out all about the virtual workshop. And if you're listening at a later date, after October in 2016, then the recording will actually be available for you to also invest in and to take yourself into this whole world of wholehearted sales conversations, where you've got that confidence and clarity to be the bridge between where someone is now and where it is that they want to be. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'd love to hear any questions or comments you've got about the way that you approach sales and the sort of success that you've been enjoying, because you are here absolutely to make a difference for your most aligned clients. And sometimes it is just that conversation that opens the door to a new possibility. So this is Angela Raspass signing out for today. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for listening to the Your Next Chapter podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Pop over to angelaraspass.com to subscribe to the show and leave a review. And whilst you're there, you can also enjoy valuable free resources, including show notes and downloads, along with the Next Chapter community, where you can connect with other wholehearted women on the same journey as you. We'd love to welcome and support you as your next chapter unfolds. See you next time.